Stories are not just for entertainment. Some stories shake our soul. This is one such story of a girl and her mysterious doll, a new neighbor. It was the year 2009. I was 16 years old, and while returning home from school every day, I noticed that a new family had come to the last house on the street. They were a young couple and had a little daughter who looked to be about 6 years old. She always wore a white frock, white socks, and black shoes. She had long black hair and a doll in her lap, whose complexion was exactly like her. Every day I would see her sitting outside the house, her deep black eyes always fixed on me. Her cold, strange gaze made me uneasy. At night I would have strange dreams. Every night I would wake up with scary dreams and would be drenched in sweat. In every dream, there was the same girl and her doll. My sleep started getting disturbed. I started feeling worried. Neighbors warning. There was an old woman living in my neighborhood who kept track of everyone's life. One day she held my hand and said, "You should stay away from that family. They are not good people. I have heard that they do not stay in one place for long. And that girl is not a human being. She is the child of the devil. And that doll, she is not a doll, but a demonic power." I thought her words were absurd and laughed it off. But I wish I had taken her warning seriously. A strange request. A few days later, there was a knock on the door. When I opened, the same girl's mother was standing in front of me. "I am going for some important work. Can you take care of my daughter for a few hours?" I agreed, but as soon as I saw the girl, a strange shiver ran through my body. Her eyes were completely black, deep and empty, like the bottomless depth of the ocean. Her hands were as cold as ice. "Come on, let's play," she said in a cold voice. A terrifying experience. We went to her room, but as soon as we got there, I felt a strange sensation. There was a strange smell in the room, as if something was rotting in it. As I played, I started to feel worse. My chest started to feel heavy. I was drenched in sweat, as if something bad was going to happen. Then the girl screamed, "You will stay here forever. Now we will play together." The door of the room closed by itself. I tried to open the door, but the handle would not move. The window was also jammed. Then I remembered what the old woman had said. Trembling with fear, I started to pray, "O God the Father in heaven." On hearing this, the girl screamed horribly. The doll fell from her hand and suddenly, it came alive. She pounced on me, clawing me with her tiny claws, a confrontation with demonic force. The doll's actions were like those of a wild animal. She reached for my neck and started squeezing hard. Somehow, I caught her and threw her against the wall with all my strength. A crack appeared on the wall, and the doll's head split in two. Suddenly, black smoke began to come out of it. I continued to pray, "Oh God, save us from evil." The doll fell to the ground and writhed in agony. The girl fainted. When her mother returned, I tried to tell her everything, but the words would not come out. A painful end. 3 years later, when the girl was just 9 years old, she committed suicide by drinking a whole lot of bleach. Her death was extremely painful. The doctors ruled it an accident, but everyone knew it was something else. A week later, when her parents were leaving the house, they found something stuck to the back of her wardrobe. It was a picture of the girl and her doll. Written on the back was a strange message. "She has returned. Anyone who hears our cries will be eternally cursed." In the end, was it just a story, or something beyond our understanding? Whatever the answer, be careful the next time you see a strange doll. It may not be just a toy. Late at night, 12-year-old Daniel sat in his bed, reading an old book. He loved strange and mysterious stories, and tonight he had found something very interesting. The book was called Lost Places of the World. As he turned the pages, he He found a story about a hidden village on an unknown island. His eyes widened as he read. There is an island that no map shows, hidden behind thick mist. On this island, there is a village where shadows move on their own and whispers float in the air. Those who find this place never return. Or if they do, they are never the same. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. He looked at the old picture in the book, an eerie village surrounded by fog. Some say the people in this village are not human. Some say they are watching. Suddenly, a knock on his door made him jump. "Daniel," his mother's voice sounded tired. "Why are you still awake? It's almost midnight." Daniel quickly closed the book and hid it under his pillow. "I was just finishing a chapter, Mom." "You can finish it tomorrow," she said. Walking into the room, she brushed his hair gently and sighed. "You need to sleep." Okay, he mumbled, turning off his lamp. His mother left, and Daniel lay under his blanket. But his mind was still thinking about the strange village. Could it really exist? As he slowly fell asleep, a dream took over. He was standing on a foggy beach, hearing quiet whispers all around him. And in the mist, glowing eyes stared at him from the darkness. The boy suddenly woke up from his sleep, his body drenched in sweat. His heart pounded in his chest, and he could still feel the lingering fear from his dream. He tried to shake off the eerie sensation, but couldn't forget the mysterious shadows he had seen in his sleep. What was that strange place, and why did it feel so real? The next day, he arrived at school, trying to push the thoughts of the dream aside. As he entered the classroom, his teacher greeted the students with an exciting announcement. "Children, we have planned a trip to the riverside." A wave of excitement swept through the classroom. Everyone cheered, and so did the boy. A trip meant adventure, fun, and a break from the usual school routine. For a moment, he forgot about his nightmare and focused on the excitement of the upcoming journey. The following morning, the students gathered near the school gate, their backpacks filled with snacks, water bottles, and other essentials. The bus ride was filled with laughter, songs, and chatter as they eagerly anticipated their day at the river. The boy sat by the window, watching the trees rush past, feeling a sense of exhilaration. When they finally arrived, the riverside was even more beautiful than they had imagined. The water sparkled under the sunlight, and the gentle sound of the flowing river was soothing. The children played, built sandcastles, and enjoyed the refreshing breeze. But as the boy wandered along the riverbank, something caught his eye. A dense forest just beyond the water's edge. A strange sense of familiarity washed over him. He had seen this place before, somewhere deep in his dreams. He hesitated for a moment before stepping closer. The trees loomed over him, their branches twisting like arms reaching out. A shiver ran down his spine, but he couldn't resist the pull of curiosity. He took a deep breath and stepped into the forest. He then moved towards that strange place. Though fear gripped him, he summoned the courage to explore the mysterious village. As he stepped through a doorway-like passage hidden among the trees, a sudden flash of light surrounded him. In the blink of an eye, he found himself in an entirely different world. Panic set in as he looked around. The riverside was nowhere in sight. His friends were gone. He was utterly alone. A deep silence engulfed the air, and as he glanced up, he realized that it was already nighttime. His heart pounded faster when he heard a low growl behind him. Turning slowly, his eyes widened in shock. A massive dog, at least 10 feet tall, stood before him, its glowing eyes locked onto him. The beast's thick fur shimmered under the dim light, and its presence sent a chill down his spine. The boy knew he had no way back. His adventure had just begun. But was he ready for what lay ahead? Daniel hid inside a small, dark hut. His heart was beating fast. A huge hen was inside with him, making loud noises. Its eyes looked like bright lights in the dark. Daniel was too scared to move. He looked around and saw that everything in the village was enormous. The animals, houses, and trees. Daniel heard people talking outside, but he didn't understand what they were saying. When the sun started to rise, Daniel peeked outside and saw the villagers. They were very tall and wore clothes made from big leaves and vines. Their faces looked a bit like humans, but with sharp features and glowing eyes. Daniel knew he had to escape. He saw a big wooden bridge over a loud river and decided to make a run for it. He carefully moved from one big bush to another, trying not to get caught. Suddenly, the ground shook, and Daniel saw a gigantic squirrel staring at him. It picked him up gently and put him on its back. Daniel held tight as the squirrel jumped from branch to branch. The villagers saw Daniel and started shouting. They grabbed spears and ran towards him. The squirrel jumped to the bridge entrance and Daniel slid off, but a huge villager blocked his way. The villager wore fancy clothes and held a big staff. Daniel didn't understand what he said, but he knew he couldn't leave. The bridge started to rise like a living thing. Daniel had to run, but the villagers were getting closer. Daniel sat in his prison cell, his heart heavy with despair. The villagers provided him with food and shelter, but they would not let him escape. He spent the entire day worrying about his parents and longing for his home. He knew he had to find a way out. The next morning, a commotion stirred the village. Shouts and hurried footsteps echoed through the air as if something terrible had happened. Before Daniel could understand what was going on, a man rushed towards him, gesturing frantically. Without a word, the man picked him up and carried him to the court of the king. Daniel's eyes widened as he saw the massive figure of the king seated on a grand throne, his face twisted in pain. A giant thorn was lodged in his right foot, causing him great agony. The villagers murmured in worry, unsure of how to help their ruler. "I can help," Daniel said bravely. The villagers hesitated but eventually allowed him to try. He needed a tool that suited his tiny hands, so he gathered materials and crafted a small, hammer-like instrument. Carefully, he approached the king's foot. With all his strength, he struck at the thorn's base, trying to loosen it. The task was daunting, requiring several attempts, but at last, the thorn came free. A deep sigh of relief escaped the king's lips. He looked down at the tiny boy, who had relieved his suffering, and smiled. It was looking like he was saying, "You have saved me," his voice booming with gratitude. He turned to his warriors and told them something in strange words, like he was saying to let Daniel free. Daniel's heart leapt with joy. The villagers, who had once trapped him, now looked at him with respect. He was guided out of the village, and soon he found his way back home. When he finally saw his parents, their faces lit up with relief and joy. They embraced him tightly, unaware of the extraordinary adventure he had experienced. Daniel chose to keep the hidden village a secret, carrying the memory of his journey in his heart. As he lay in his bed that night, he wondered if the village still watched over him, hidden away in the mysteries of the world. Smiling to himself, he closed his eyes, knowing that he had witnessed something truly magical. And so, the hidden village remained a secret, and Daniel's life returned to normal. But he would never forget the adventure that changed him forever.